Do you guys remember the podcast the other day that had the Pfizer executive telling the European Union Parliament, no, we never tested the jab to see if it worked because we were working at the speed of science? Remember that bullshit? Remember the talking heads at the mainstream media telling the sheeple, trust the science people, don't listen to them conspiracy theorists with their tinfoil hats. Remember Pfizer asking the FDA to seal their data for 75 years before releasing info to the public? Now there's a good meme floating around called alphabravo.com. Nothing says trust the science like asking for the data to be hidden for 75 years. Ain't it the truth? Come on, people. It is so obvious. Our masters have the majority of Americans so controlled, diffused, diseased, and deceived. But that isn't happening on my watch. Not on my channel. I say with certainty, you can trust me. And trust me when I tell you, hell, I'm just getting started on Monday the 19th of December, 2022. The 1939 movie, The Wizard of Oz, gave the viewers an added bonus. The book did not. Welcome to part 2 of The Wiz. No doubt, people, we are off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. We hear he is a wonderful whiz, if ever a whiz there was. Now, what am I talking about? The movie has a musical soundtrack. The book did not. Judy Garland, who played Dorothy, poor kid, had a miserable life courtesy of the Hollywood movie moguls, wonder who they were, became famous from singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And what is supposedly at the end of the rainbow? A pot of gold, people. Truth in the movies, fiction in the news. Hey, there's plenty of leprechauns walking around. You could ask if you don't believe me. Well, hell, even the bottom feeder pit has a leprechaun as a regular customer. No names, people, but some people call him Papa Smurf. I just call him the Runt. So now, we have Dorothy, the straw man, and the tin man walking down the darkened path through the forest, and they meet the Cowardly Lion. All bluff, but no stuff. Threatening to take out the three travelers with one paw tied behind his back even. Terrorizing his victims with his words. The Cowardly Lion was running a good show until Dorothy slapped him. Turns out the big bully, all talk, was just a crybaby coward, hiding behind his costume, his suit. And who does the Cowardly Lion represent? Well, if you haven't guessed it by now, the cowardly lawyers hiding behind their suits, the standing army of our banker masters that work us over in their admiralty courts. The lawyers are not licensed by any administrative unit of the state. Doctors, plumbers, electricians, bars, real estate agents, and a host of others are licensed by the state, the executive branch to be precise, but not lawyers. No, not them. They operate under the color of law as members of a private union, the American Bar Association, an association rich in corrupt history, taking us all the way back to God Save the Queen, mate, Mother England. While it might be good advice to hire one, keep in mind they are officers of the court, and their first duty is to the court, not you. And what did the wonderful wizard give him, the Cowardly Lion? He gave him a medal to prove his courage, and the Cowardly Lion changed his evil ways and actually became helpful to Dorothy in her quest to go home, back to Kansas. Imagine that, helpful lawyers. On the way to Emerald City, Dorothy, her dog Toto, the straw man, tin man, and Cowardly Lion had to travel through the field of poppies. Why poppies? Now remember the evil witch, I'll get to that bitch later, had treated the poppy fields so that any who walked through them would fall asleep. Well, I can only hazard an educated guess as to why Mr. Baum, author of the book, had the witch treat the poppy fields. I'm guessing to conceal the truth, hide it in plain view. Kind of make it is kind of a children's fantasy story too. Because by 1900, the Opium Wars were well-established history. Ah yes, the noble Opium Wars, where British troops, and I think the Americans were deeply involved too, invaded and killed many Chinese back in the 1800s. And what was China's crime? The Chinese governments, the provincial governments, the territorial governments were cracking down on opium production. Opium was making their citizens as useless as tits on a suitcase. They were mental cases. They were all drugged up, unproductive. But opium and heroin, a later derivative of the opium poppy, was big business to the bankers. Can't let human suffering get in the way of business now, can we? But it's just as it is today for the drug money laundering banks. Remember U.S. Army troops guarding poppy fields in Afghanistan? Did anybody ever ask, I wonder why them dudes are doing that? Nothing new under the sun, people. Well, the Wicked Witch's trick worked kinda sorta partially. For Dorothy, Toto, and the Cowardly Lion did fall asleep. But not the Straw Man and the Tin Man. Why not? They weren't living beings. They were paper fictions, and narcotics can't affect them. Only those with the breath of life, not those who are dead at sea. Are you guys still following me? I think the real story behind the story is very interesting and applicable to us today. Oh, very much so. In fact, I was at the bottom of Peter Pit yesterday. There were a lot of tin men watching the NFL amusement on the television. Go figure. Continuing. Well, thanks to the good witch interfering with the evil witch's plans, our 4 travelers, including the dog, made it to the Emerald City. And what was the Emerald City? The Federal Reserve, people. The wholly privately owned banking cartel that is not federal and does not have any reserves. Truly, people, fool's gold is green. It would be the third and final attempt on sticking the American public with a central, privately controlled bank. For the benefit of who? Oh, well, of course, for us, not the little greedy, who almost said it, bankers in the background. What finally exposed the great and powerful Oz? Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. It was when Toto pulled back the curtain, was it not? Toto in Latin means in toto, all together. Remember that ugly skank at the beginning of the movie, who later became the Wicked Witch? You know, the one peddling the bicycle. What did she want and take when she stopped by Dorothy's farm in Kansas? She claimed the dog, Toto, bit her. She wanted and took Toto. She took everything. Who did the Wicked Witch represent? Come on, people. It should be getting easy by now. She represented the IRS, the Imaginary Revenue Service. Remember her flying monkeys? Well, hell, IRS agents. As Merrill Jenkins Sr. wrote, everything I own is theirs. Look at the word theirs, people. THEIRS, the IRS. I'll wrap this all up for you into a neat little bundle, an understandable bundle, at the next podcast, Part 3. I do not know if there'll be a podcast tomorrow. I have a top secret mission this afternoon, and this one's so secret I can't even disclose the town I'm going to. But even before I can go, I got stuff to do. Damn it.